Now let me read something from the book of Hebrews, chapter 6. Very interesting passage here. It says, therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, let us go on unto perfection. That means, well, let's leave the baby stage and move to maturity, to adulthood, spiritually speaking. And as I said, a lot of us Christians have been babies for 10, 20, 30 years. Preachers are babies for 10, 20, 40, 50 years of ministry. We're still babies wearing spiritual diapers, trying to head organizations, lead churches, and we're not growing up. The writer of the book of Hebrews in chapter 6, from that verses 1 down, says essentially, let's leave behind. Leaving behind the principles, the foundational teaching about the doctrine of Christ, let's move on to perfection. Not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and of faith towards God. Then now verse 2, of the doctrine of baptisms, all kinds, all types of baptisms. Then and of laying of hands. And in that verse 2 it says, and of the resurrection of the dead, and of eternal judgment. And this we will do if God permits. Now I'm reading from the King James Version. The writer here is letting us know to everything there should be a foundation, there's a beginning. But don't get stuck at the beginning. Don't get stuck at the foundation. Even masons or builders know that when they lay foundations, it is a preparation now to lay the bricks and the stones and build up the walls all the way to the roofs and put up doors and windows and make it be a livable place. If a builder can only lay foundation and the foundation is staying there for 10 or 40 or 50 or 100 years, nobody can inhabit that place. So he's talking about increasement or increase or rising up or growing up. So as I say here, sadly, most of us have been saved, and salvation has been the apex of our experience with God. And some people, and I've heard this over and over, I've heard some of the biggest known or well-renowned preachers around the whole world, even here in America, big-name preachers saying the greatest miracle that can happen to anybody is getting saved. I heard it over and over and over and over, and one day I was tired of it. I went to God in prayer. I said, Lord, what's happening? Are you the one saying this word? The Lord said, I didn't say that. They say so. The preachers are the ones saying it. He said, I didn't say that. So that is, it's a statement that sounds to be really very encouraging and powerful, which I understand, but it's not a correct statement at all. Salvation is a great experience. It is. Thank God for it. It is the foundation. But it is not even the greater or even the greatest. I'm talking about now comparative and how do you call it in my English grammar, where we do comparative analysis. Somebody is bigger, somebody is better, somebody is nicer, and this, and then the superlative. You see, when we compare the salvation is great, salvation is good, but salvation is not greater, it's not the best, it's not even better. There are other things we can see. And so the Lord answered me. He said, son, let me ask you a question. And he reasoned with me, and I got the message right there. He said, when I created Adam and Eve without sin, okay, and then later on when Adam and Eve fell into sin, and his descendants all have been born in sin, he said, which one of the two is greater or is better? Is it creating the first man without sin, or after the sin came into the world, I came to restore, to redeem? Which one is greater? I said it's to create somebody without sin. He said, yeah, that is it. As creating the first human being without sin, as great and wonderful it was, still God never said that is the greatest miracle. So salvation is great. Salvation is wonderful. And when we come to God, it's a wonderful experience. But it is not the greatest miracle God has ever done or will ever do. There are bigger miracles out there we know nothing about. And Jesus even said in John 14:12, he said, well, the miracles I do, you too can do. Then he said greater miracles. That means what? He moves from great to greater. He didn't say even greatest. He said greater. The great miracles I do, you too can do. And even greater miracles. He didn't say the greatest. So preachers and theologians have coined this word, the greatest miracle is salvation, the greatest miracle is salvation, and that is wrong. Why? Because when people get saved now, they think that they have already arrived. They feel that they are at the epic, at the top of every experience with God. And then they build walls around the start playing church. Sooner or later, they start going down, 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 down. They're backsliding. You see, but when you realize that when you come to know Christ, it is a great experience. That God has restored a fallen human being into relationship with him by saving him through the blood and the sacrifice of his son Jesus Christ. That is a great experience. However, it moves you now to be more hungry or to be hungrier for bigger things from God. So that you can now take from the foundation and start building and going up and up and up, higher and higher, and then getting your roots deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So the writer of the book of Hebrews here, chapter 6, he says, well, leaving behind the foundation. We've already settled the foundation. Why should you dance around the foundation for 10, 20, 40, 50 years of ministry, only talking about this, talking about these salvations, and you're going no further? Something is wrong. It's time to grow up. Church, grow up. Preacher, grow up. Believers, let's grow up. There are more territories out there, more areas to conquer. The Israelites left Egypt, and that they crossed over the Red Sea. That is salvation experience right there. But what about the Promised Land? You see, there are other territories they have to go through, and what would have taken them a short number of time to get from Egypt to the Promised Land, they spent about 40 years because of rebellion and disobedience and whining and complaining, sinning against God. So they had to repeat classes over and over and over and over and over. And out of the millions and millions and millions who left Egypt, they all perished in the wilderness. Only Joshua and Caleb, including even Pastor Moses or Prophet Moses, couldn't even enter the Promised Land. He saw with his eye, but he couldn't go in.